birdies. I am Dee. If you missed last week's video, feel free to check it out right there. We talked about crows and how cool they are. So let's get into it. What bird are we talking about this week? The secretary bird. Yay! For those of you that are unfamiliar, the secretary bird is also known as Sagittarius serpentarius. Do with that what you will. They are birds that are located in sub-Saharan Africa. So the farthest north you're gonna find them is in Senegal, but you will find them as far south as the very bottom tip of South Africa. They have a lifespan of 10 to 15 years in the wild and 19 years in captivity. And unfortunately, they are an endangered species. This is due mainly to habitat loss. Just as a quick refresher, the categories that we're gonna be going through in our bird rubric are bird smarts, a bird's call, plumage, eating habits, mating habits, flight patterns. Lastly, I get an extra set of points to award based off of the coolest possible fun facts that I can find. Dee's own bias. Let's get into category number 1, bird smarts. In terms of bird smarts for the secretary bird, they are considered predators. They do not have really any species around them that will hunt them. They are hunting everything else below them. Farmers have figured out that they are able to tame secretary birds to kill snakes and other small pests on their property. Not recommended to do that. Secretary birds are basically just giant baddies. They can hunt really well. That's about all I could find. For the bird smarts category, I'm gonna give secretary birds a 4 out of 10. Stay tuned, it does get better. Getting into category number 2, a bird's call. Secretary birds are actually known for being silent for most of the day. Their call does not usually come out till the nighttime. When you do hear a secretary bird, their call is known to resemble that of like a raven or a frog. A frog. They have several different styles of calls, including like a hoarse croaking sound to almost clucking like a chicken, squeals, purrs. They use these calls to discern whether or not there's a threat, whether they're trying to mate, or just communicate with other secretary birds around them. The fact that they're mostly silent throughout the day is a little bit disappointing. I'm giving them a 3 out of 10. Now we get to plumage. The secretary bird has been described as having the head of an eagle and the body of a stork. I think that's so funny. They can be up to 1.3 meters tall, which is 4.5 feet, but they have a wingspan of up to 2 meters, which is 7 feet wide. Whoa, that's crazy. They use this really large wingspan to help distract prey when they're trying to hunt. And they also use it in their very extravagant mating displays. It also looks like they're wearing makeup, and I love them. Makeup birds. So for plumage, I'm gonna give the secretary birds an 8 out of 10 because they are everything. Moving on to eating habits. Secretary birds typically hunt snakes, but that is not all that their diet consists of. Secretary birds eat crabs, other small mammals, insects, bird eggs, and several other different types of reptiles. When hunting snakes, secretary birds use their scaly legs to help protect them from snake bites, and like I mentioned earlier, they use their very large wingspan to help distract the snake so that they can kick it. That's how they hunt, is by kicking things. They are also one of only 2 birds of flight, so excluding like ostriches, penguins, other flightless birds, that hunt on the ground. The other bird that hunts on the ground is called the caracara. So all in all, their eating habits are pretty cool. I'm gonna give them a 6 out of 10 for this category. Category number 5, we're moving into mating habits. Secretary birds are very interesting. Their mating displays take place in the sky and also on the ground. They will perform something called pendulum flights, where the birds kind of go up and down and all around each other. Then they also will dance together on the ground. It'll be a series of like wing flaps. They'll run side by side and do this cute little dance thing. Secretary birds mate for life. Once they find a pair, they will stick together and they will defend a territory of up to 50 square kilometers where they have their nest, where they hunt for food, and all the other secretary birds will know that, like, that's Jim and Anna's territory. Once a pair has decided to mate and it's time to lay eggs, they will build their nest at the top of an acacia tree. I tried to find pictures of these nests, and I can find pictures of the birds in the tree, but it's actually really hard to get pictures of their eggs, which are blue, which is sick, because they are very, very territorial. So here's some other blue eggs, so you can imagine what it might look like. For mating habits, I'm gonna give secretary birds a 7 out of 10. Moving on to flight patterns. Secretary birds' flight patterns suck because they don't fly. They can, but they choose not to. They will walk between 20 and 30 kilometers a day in search of food. They really only take to the skies when they are doing their mating displays or in order to reach their nests at the top of their tree. With all that being said, they don't technically migrate and they don't have flight patterns, so I'm gonna give them a 4 out of 10 on that technicality. And now we get to Dee's own bias. This is always my favorite category. So for my first fact, no one is really sure where secretary birds get their names. There are 2 theories, one of them being that they resembled 19th century lawyers' secretaries because they would write with quilled pens and then put them behind their ears. And when secretary birds splay out the feathers on the backs of their head, it looked very similar. The second theory is that it is actually a corruption of an Arabic word, sakre et tair, meaning hunter bird. And they think over the years it just kind of molded to eventually be secretary bird. Number 2, the secretary bird appears on 2 countries' coat of arms, both Sudan and South Africa. My last fact is that secretary birds have one of the fastest and strongest kicks in the animal kingdom. They can kick at up to 5 to 6 times their body weight, and their foot can go from being still to making contact with an animal they're trying to hunt in 15 milliseconds. That's awesome and very fast. For the last category, I'm gonna give secretary birds an extra 7 out of 10 points, because those are all pretty cool. And that's gonna bring us to the end of the secretary bird. After tallying up all the points, the secretary bird gets an average score of a 5.6 out of 10, which is pretty low. I honestly expected them to rate higher than this. I do think that they are very, very, very interesting birds, but when it came down to the rubric, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. Well, that's it for today. Let me know if you would rate the secretary bird the same or if you'd give it a higher rating than I did. Also, as always, comment below what bird you think I should rate next week. And do not forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Every week I will bring you a new bird and it will be fun and there will be facts. Thanks to Point Crow for releasing the cute little doodles. I love him. He's so good. Okay, see you next week.